Can you hear me all right? Oh, I can hear me. Okay. Good. I need a second just to get myself together. I feel like I got set up a little bit, but that's all right. Just kidding. Just kidding. I will do my best. I'm a walker and a talker, so I'll do my best. See a lot of familiar faces. It feels very sweet to see you all. Some of you I haven't seen in a very long time. A lot of new faces. Thank you. I just want to get one thing out of the way in the beginning, which is yes, my shirt is wrinkled. And no, I don't want to talk about it. I have a shirt on, and I think that's worth celebrating. So, and I made it here this morning on time. Okay, all right, now listen, we're in church. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love you too. What a time to be alive, huh? Yeah, what a time. What a time. So, I'm coming up here in the way that I was taught, which is to allow the Spirit to move through me. So I'll tell you what my goal is. My goal is to talk about faith and justice. I don't know if I'll get there, but that's the goal. And I just want to begin, I think, by letting you know how my own journey of getting here started. I am a transgender man. I transitioned 10 years ago. And I was at Inner Light Ministries. I know many of you have been there as well. And just before I transitioned, I was in a hate crime. And I arrived the next morning, not even 10 hours after being released from the hospital. I arrived at that church, and they took me in and literally saved my life. I didn't grow up going to church. I grew up where church was a painful thing. I grew up where religion, prayer, God, Christians, right, were all scary and spiteful and mean. Okay, I'm just telling you what my experience was. I'm not saying that's true now. That was my experience. And through my transition and through my coming out process, which I came out a long time ago, it was a very different world than it is now. Through that process, I came to understand that we're not required to cede any territory. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I'm not giving up God. I'm not giving up prayer. I'm not giving up church. I'm not giving up faith. I'm not giving up these principles because I have a divine right to inhabit faith. Because I have a divine right to know love. And that, for me, has been a very powerful journey. And I think there are a lot of queer people, queer folks, for whom the church has been hurtful. But the church is in you. You hear what I'm saying? You're the church. And now let's talk about some hard truths. The church can be harmful because you're the church. You hear what I'm saying? Sometimes you're a little hard on yourself, right? The church can be harmful. And so I want to invite you to walk into your church again for the first time. Show up in your faith again for the first time. Show up with an open heart, willing to love yourself again for the first time. Allow yourself not to cede the territory of church, but to recreate it, to remaster it, to make it generative, to make it loving. Now, I don't know about you, but this world to me feels a little bit scary. And I've been thinking a lot about what's mine to do. And I don't know the answer yet, but I'll keep you updated when I figure it out. But what I have been thinking a lot about is paradox. Okay, for me, God is in the paradox. It's where two things are true at the same time. To me, that's God. Because how is that possible that two things are true? But two things can be true at the same time. Although, as Rev D used to say, there are two sides to every story, and then there's the truth. But that's that's a different thing. You put that in your pocket for later. That'll come in handy. This concept of paradox has been stretching me lately. Like, how do we hold the light and also stay present in the darkness. And another thing is to recognize that it's not dark for everybody. Okay? Some people are in their light. So how do we hold those two things to be true at the same time? And here's what I know. When things come up at the level that they're coming up at the moment, that tells me something needs to be healed. Something's up. Something's wrong. If I start creating a crisis inside myself, I hope somebody around me is going to jump in and say, hey, something's going on here. We're seeing a crisis, so something's going on here, right? Humanity, the planet, all nature is all evolution. It's all generative. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted. And that's really important for us to understand. I know for myself, like if you want to get loud, I'll get louder. You want to get gritty, I'll get grittier. You want to get angry, I'll get angrier, right? And that's not really helping anybody, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm creating an us and a them. So here's the hard part, is like, oh, that's me, right? Oh, that's me. What part of myself is so fearful that I feel like creating an executive order that only legislates 2 genders, which, by the way, I've been both of them, so I think I get extra credit for that. I'm just saying, I wasn't very good at being a woman, but that's a different subject. What kind of fear generates that? What's the hurt that needs to be looked at? What's the thing that needs to be talked about? There's a fear here. And instead of saying you're doing it the wrong way, let's say, hey, what are you afraid of? How can I help you? How can I help you to understand this differently? Now, am I telling you that you got to go walk out of here and fix all the problems in the world? Absolutely not. Here's the good news. You start at home. You start within yourself, right? This is what the spiritual practices are for. What are you practicing for if you don't plan to play? Right? It's time to play, right? It's time to take those practices and put them to good use. If that's what it takes for you to get grounded and centered and be in your being so that you get to show up and use your voice as a vehicle for love, stay meditating. Don't get up yet. If you're still angry, take a couple more minutes, right? Do a little bit more praying. And then let's get close to each other. Like, slow down. Get close to each other. Check on your family. Check on your neighbor. Sometimes that's as far as you're going to get. I might go to check on my neighbor, and that turns into a full-time job. Now, who's to say that me taking care of my neighbor isn't just as transformative as leading a million-man march? It's the same thing, but in a small action. And I know we're all capable of doing small actions. So I want to give you permission to do ordinary, extraordinary things. Give yourself permission to show up in extraordinary ways in ordinary circumstances. To me, that's what's required in this moment. Some of us, that looks like speaking and being out in the front. For other people, it looks like making the ham sandwiches, which is a reference you may or may not understand, but that's okay. Some people got to feed the people that are doing the thing. When we come into a service like this, a church like this, right? You got a person doing the announcements. You got a person doing the music. You got a person doing the praying. I forgot where Cheryl went, but you got people doing everything, right? One is not bigger than the other one. You hear what I'm saying? There's no one part that is more important. My part isn't more important. What is true is that some people access God through some people and maybe not through others. And that's okay. So somebody might come in here and hear that song, and that was the thing that they needed, was just that song. They could leave right now and the whole service is over. They could have just heard an announcement that made them realize, like, oh, there's a thing that I want to tune into. That thing could be life-changing. That's it. So every single part is vital. We live in an ecosystem. Everything. Nothing is wasted, right? And here's a humbling thought for me. I'm 42. I transitioned I keep saying 10 years. I've been saying 10 years for like 14 years, but whatever. Like 10-ish years ago, right? If I had been alive 100 years ago, would have had a very different experience, right? If I'm alive 100 years ahead of now, I'm going to have a very different experience because I played my part right now. This is an evolving generative process. Each of us is carrying our part, our piece of the puzzle, right? We show up, we do the best that we can with what we have, and then we pass it on. The truth is, I probably won't see the fruits of these labors in my lifetime. My kids might not see them either. And that's okay. Because evolution still requires each of us to show up. And the better job that we do of getting ourselves free from our own understandings, the better job we do of being a vessel for what wants to be in us. You can be loud and wrong, right? You heard a few people be loud and wrong? Yeah? You can be loud and wrong. And you can be quiet and right. And either way, there's something that's coming through you. Even if you're wrong. This is hard. This is the paradox, right? Like, even if you're wrong and you're loud, somebody might have heard you, and that's what changes their perspective. Like, wait a minute, hold on, something's not right here. So it's all important. It's all integral. Nature wastes nothing. It's compost, it's fuel, it's your breath, it's a life force, right? Nature wastes nothing. Definitely not you. And we love the symbol of a tree, right? I mean, who doesn't love a tree? Trees are easy to love. Trees are beautiful. We love seeing all the big branches, the leaves, all of that, but most of the life is happening underground. Most of that life is happening in the dark. So if you're ready to reach for the light, you better be willing to go deep. You better be willing to get dark. You might have to invite some pain in. Pain is a good teacher. And I know that oftentimes we want to seek bliss. We want to seek joy. We want things to be good. I want things to be good too. But you also have to experience the full spectrum of humanity. And we have to release our desire to label one good and one bad. You are where you are. How much time do I have? Okay, great. I have to have a timekeeper because otherwise I'll be up here all day. I had an interesting moment. Let me be very honest. I'm living the absolute best version of my life right now. And like 2 months ago, I stopped. I'm looking around. And I'm like, everything is good. Why am I so upset? I think I know why, which is I never practiced the capacity to be happy. That never occurred to me. Like, what do you mean I could be happy? Like, what's this happy thing? I don't even like happy. Like, who wants to be joyful? Like, I don't like joy. I don't like that word. Like, everything about it just bothers me. You know why? Because I identify myself as somebody who was raised in the struggle. I identify myself as somebody who does the work. I identify myself as the one who's plowing. You get to harvest too. Now, some of y'all have been harvesting for a long time. Let's be honest, okay? Some of y'all been eating a little too much. It's time to do a little plowing, right? That's an individual thing. You have to figure out for yourself, like, I've been eating all this, but I might not be helping grow it. So I can't tell you what that is. I mean, I have opinions. Don't get me wrong, but I can't tell you what it is. But there's an opportunity through our spiritual practices to develop a capacity to understand ourselves as a full spectrum human being. Not just a happy being or a sad being or an angry being, a full spectrum human being. And you're going to have low days. You're going to have hard days. Sometimes you're going to be the bad guy in somebody's picture, and that's okay. It's okay. Because what's important is what you're doing inside of yourself. We are developing the capacity to extend our love, to extend our gratitude. I know that the world feels scary. I'm not missing that point. Trust me, I'm not missing that point. But I still have the capacity to be loving. I still have the capacity to understand myself as a divine being. Let me tell you something that being trans has taught me. Trans people are like, it's a cheat code. Like I'm not sure like people understand how much of a cheat code being transgender is, because you get to see life from so many different positions, and you really get to understand how made up it is. Okay? It's made up. It's really, really made up. But one of the beautiful superpowers of being trans is the world doesn't offer you affirmation. Not yet. Not quite yet. We're getting there, right? We're working on that. But for somebody like me who came out when gay marriage was still not legal, the world didn't give me affirmation. Liberation is an inside job. You hear what I'm saying? Liberation is an inside job. I had to pray and recognize that inside myself. I had to understand that I am divine as I am. And let me tell you right now, nobody's taking that from me. And when I say that I'm a divine being, what that means is that I have a relationship with life that is unique. It is mine. It is my relationship with life. Okay? And in that relationship, just like any other relationship, it takes work. I've got to show up for what life wants to give me, and life's going to have to help me out sometimes when I'm not getting it, right? How many of you have been going through changes sometimes and you just don't want to? It's like, I just don't want to do that thing. Like, I don't care. I heard that you said that was a good idea. I don't want it. I just don't want it. And how often does that work? Yeah, it doesn't, right? There's a way in which life just keeps going. It's like whether you're on board or not, it's just going to keep going. The more fight that we try and put up, the more suffering you're causing yourself. So I'm asking you to be in right relationship with life. Be in right relationship with life, and life will take care of you. It will give you that solid understanding that the earth is beneath you no matter where you go. That you are a part of some interconnected, interdependent ecosystem. You, each of us, unique and special, and also part of many, right? One of one, one of many. Both things are true. That's the paradox that I'm talking about. And when you come to places like this, you get to be regrounded, you get to be reminded of that ecosystem. That there are people like you who are praying, who are willing to pray with you, who are willing to say, I see you and it's okay. And you still have to get out of my office at the end of the hour and go figure it out at home, right? Both things can be true, right? Both things can be true. And the good thing about these practices is you get to do them by yourself. You get to develop that divine right relationship with life through prayer. We're not going to be ceding that territory anymore. Prayer means a right relationship with life, okay? A prayer is just a shift in consciousness. That's all it is. It's taking yourself in one place. Now, when I'm praying, I'm not praying to my sky friend to change the circumstances, right? What I'm doing is I'm praying like, okay, here's a thing that's happening, and here's how I'm relating to it. I'm going to start praying, and then I'm going to move over here. That thing might still be the same, but I'm not relating to it the same way. I'm not going to have my narrative run by my fear. So I'm going to pray and move on over. And I get to look at that thing differently. That's what a prayer is, okay? What God is for you, you make that up. That's your own relationship. Lots of people have opinions about it, but it's your own understanding. For me, it's the interconnectedness of all living beings. It's that energy, that life force, right? That thing that's coming through everything, including things like these chairs and handrails. Somebody thought of that. Somebody had that idea, and then they made it manifest. Okay? There's energy in everything around you. And then there's church. is your temple. I encourage you to go to church. I encourage you to pray. I encourage you to be in community with all the different parts of yourself. Liberation is an inside job. Amen? Amen. Are you willing to pray with me? Thank you. Ooh, I'm get a piano. You might have to take this mic out of my hands. All right. Let's just take a deep breath. If you're willing and able, put your feet on the ground. Just straighten up your spine a little bit if you can. Feel your butt in the chair. I want you to feel the full width of your body. Shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, head to toe. Let's just say thank you. Thank you for these bodies, these extraordinary miracles that are working all the time, for that ceaseless breath, that ceaseless heartbeat. Thank you for these divine manifestations of this one we call God. Thank you for the opportunity to inhabit and be in community, to have a body to our right and to our left. This is a gift. Thank you, beloved, for the opportunity to feel and sense and be, even when it's murky or mucky. We still get to feel. And in this place of gratitude, we get to recognize just how extraordinary life is. We get to feel it inside of ourselves, not a theory, not an idea, not a narrative, not a book, not a sky friend, but right here, in this blood and bone and breath. How sweet it is to see the miracle of life. In this moment, as we're feeling the energy in our bodies, just let that radiate out just a little bit. Let it radiate out a little bit, and it might touch your neighbor. It might touch the person next to you. Just let your energy extend out. And let it keep going. And let it keep going. And let it keep going. And that reverberation through all of our beings here is reverberating through time and space. This is a declaration that life is good. Thank you, beloved, for this reminder. I'm thinking of the song that was played before I began speaking. And I can't sing, but I want to honor that song as such a profound prayer for all beings, all lives, and all circumstances. Let us be courageous enough to turn and face it. Let us be courageous enough to pray. We're not praying just for ourselves. We're praying for everyone. I'm not just liberating me, I'm liberating you. You're not just showing up to help me, you're showing up for you. This prayer is a declaration of that interdependence. Thank you, beloved, with so much gratitude, with love, and with a deep sense of surrender. We allow this prayer to go out before us this day. May that energy push out in front of us, and may everyone who comes in contact with us know that this morning is good. We've been in church, we've been praying, and God is here right now, and all is well. And so it is. Amen. Amen.